Number 1, start with an idea. Whether it's a phrase or a word or even just a feeling that you want to try to articulate through a song, start with that concept. Remember what you're doing. You're telling a story. So, Number 2, decide how you want to tell the story. Are you standing in front of someone and telling them something? Are you watching something happening and commenting on it? Or are you describing a situation that happened before and summing it up in the present? Just for some functional examples of these methods, most pop songs are stories told in first person. There are barely any pop songs on the charts that don't say the word you in them. An upside to songs like this is the immediate relational connection between the listener and the song. When you hear a song that's sung to a you either imagine yourself singing it to someone else, making them the you, or you feel as if you are the person the artist is singing about, making yourself the you. This song-listener connection makes a song relatable, attention-grasping, and easy to understand, meaning it will leave an impression on listeners more easily. However, you could write the same pop song from a different perspective by using the word him and her instead of you. Taking this more distant approach to telling the story can also be very effective. Writing from more of an observer's perspective is less often used now, especially in pop music, but it's a very effective approach, especially to writing complex songs. With this approach, you can pull together multiple stories or situations that all lead up to or depict the main image or concept from the chorus. If your concept is a story that goes from past to present and is summed up with a simple chorus or a metaphor, write it just like that. Tell the story and then use the chorus as a break in the story to reflect on the events you're telling and pull them together in a simple, relatable, and articulate way. A good example of this is Taylor Swift's All Too Well, where she tells a drawn-out story broken up by a chorus that changes each time but maintains the phrase all too well, which ties every stage of the story together. There are so many more ways to tell a story in a song, but these 3 methods are the easiest way to understand and go about it. Remember, are you talking to, talking about, or telling about? Now that you know how you'll approach telling the story you'll tell in your song, how do you start? Number 3, chorus. I find it easier to start with the chorus so that I can get down the overlying concept of the song before I lead up to it and expand on it in the verses. Working on the melody and the lyrics simultaneously often makes the process faster and easier, so sing out lines. Start singing or playing chords while you're brainstorming lyrics, and don't stress. The easiest way to make a clear chorus that demonstrates the concept of your song is to have the title of the song or the word or phrase you came up with in the beginning be the first and last line of the chorus. Once you make the chorus what you want it to be, articulating the idea you started with, it's time to expand with the verses. Number 4, first verse. This can be hard sometimes, so that's where you go back to the perspective you're writing from and get into character. If you're talking to someone in your song, imagine how you would want to start that conversation. Is it bringing up something that happened? Is it talking about how you feel? If you're talking about something or someone, imagine where you are when the story begins. What's around you? What do you notice first? Describe the scenery or the point of interest. Paint the picture. If you're telling a past story, create or remember the beginning. Use vivid imagery of real things that were or would be around you and set the scene. Make your listeners identify with the story by putting them in your shoes and describing the scenery. Don't be afraid to be specific. A song doesn't have to be vague for people to identify with the story. If you make the scenery and setting vivid enough, the listeners will feel as if they are experiencing all the specifics of the story. As Jack Antonoff discussed in the podcast And the Writer Is, if you make a chorus that articulates a human experience or something everyone has felt regardless of the circumstance that caused that feeling, the verses can be as specific as you want. Jack Antonoff was discussing this in regards to Out of the Woods, which he wrote for Taylor Swift. The term, "Are we out of the woods?" is something people can easily understand and identify with, even if they've never been in a relationship like the one described in the song. 5. Writing devices. How do you say what you want to say? To make people understand your story, you can use devices like metaphors. Metaphors can be quick and simple or long and complex, but they're a very effective way to paint a picture of what you're trying to say. It's good to have a balance between metaphor and reality, line to line, so your listeners don't get lost in the metaphor world. Last thing for the first verse. Make sure the verses lead into the chorus. The verses have to be a logical progression that your chorus naturally follows from. You could do this by adding a pre-chorus. A pre-chorus pulls your listeners into the headspace they need to be in to hear and understand the chorus, or the point of the entire song. So if you feel like your verses don't quite lead into the chorus in a natural way, way, you could add a pre-chorus that leads more directly into what you're trying to say in the chorus. Remember, you're telling a story. If you feel like you've skipped a scene, the pre-chorus can fill it in. Sometimes it's very effective to make a pre-chorus that breaks from any metaphors and is totally direct and clear, so that when you go into the chorus, which may or may not contain a metaphor, your listener will understand what you're saying or what you're about to say. For example, in a song I wrote called No Problem, the first verse is about worrying about a person and their bad decisions even after they're not in your life anymore. But the pre-chorus stops the listener from that emotion in the first verse and prepares them for the emotion in the chorus, leading them to the real meaning of the song, which is being so done with caring. If I went straight from the verse to the chorus, the emotional shift would be a little difficult to follow. 6. Now that your first verse leads into the chorus that you've already written, it's time for the second verse. If songs are stories, think about it this way. The first verse is the beginning of a story that has no context. The chorus is explaining the meaning or direction of the rest of the story. So, continue the story. If you're talking to, give more examples and metaphors that explain what you're saying in the chorus, ways how and reasons why the relationship was/is bad or good. If you're talking about, what happens next? Now that you've come to understand your subject matter more, what's some more things you notice now? If you're telling about, just keep writing the next stage of the story. The second verse is literally just following the formula of the first verse, so don't stress. It's all down and you just have to fill it in. Number 7, the bridge. If you want there to be a bridge in your song, bridges are to tie and complete the story together. For your bridge, change the melody in the chords so that your listeners know that it's the bridge. Then reflect on the story you just told or give an epilogue. Or if you don't want to add any more words, you can let the music do the talking. A lot of bridges are just the chorus or the pre-chorus sung in a different kind of way, bringing new meaning to it. Now, build it back up to the chorus and you're home free. You wrote a song. Dope.